Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stratosphere Studio. I'm your host, Bill Whittle. And we had a little launch there with a little bit of a problem with the sound, but that's okay because I hadn't hit the record button anyway. But now we have, hey, look, we've got Super Chats. And I'm going to take one right now from GK Masterson. I'm clicking on it. Do I need to, hang on, I might need to do this in the browser. Want to make sure we get this right. Thank you, GK, for being the sacrificial lamb there. Was there a question attached, or was it just a? No, guess there wasn't. Okay, so I think we're good. So anyway, I'll email you back the $2. Got it. All right. Well, I've seen them on other people's things, and I thought, what the heck, we might as well do it. So. Had a couple of nice comments on last week's Stratosphere Studio talking about art and craft of writing. That was fun. I had a couple things first, I guess, and then we'll do as many questions as we can here. First of all, this project I've been working on for months now, this Masters of Soviet Terror thing, it is eating me alive. When I say eating me alive, I mean it's suffocating me. I'm having more trouble writing this than I can think of anything that I've ever had any memory of writing before. And I didn't know why. And it's only last night talking to Natasha about this that it began to get clear on me. Oh my goodness, Blank Frankie. Greetings from Australia, Bill. It sure is super chatty. It sure is super chat in here. Thank you very much, Blank Frankie from Australia. I obviously realize the cogitation spectacles are going to be necessary. You know what else I could do, actually, to avoid that shameful fate? Thank you very much, and thank you for the super chat. And it's just amazing to me that people are listening from around the world, which has never ceased to be shocking. But thank you for saying so. Marisha Dark says Sargon of Arcad is back on Twitter. I can see that there will be a place for super chat only kind of things. I'll tell you who else is back on Twitter, although I think I'll probably save that for Thursday, generally speaking. Let me see if I can just change the resolution here and see if that helps. Yeah, this. They have when you change resolution on Apple, they've got these different screen sizes, and it should just be 45 and younger and 45 and older. Of all the things that bother me about getting older, it's the loss of vision and how fast it happened. It just like wham, like pow. I was sitting there plugging in cables in the back of a DVD. So I tell you how long ago it was, and I went up to the thing, and it's like I can't read this. I can't read this. Anyway. Yeah, so I heard earlier today that Twitter had reestablished Donald Trump, and that apparently they did it based on a vote. Money, money, money! Look at all this money coming in! My goodness gracious! The Gorn is he's in recovery. He's not there yet. He hasn't fallen over, but on the other hand, he's not standing exactly straight either. Thank you very much, Jared Rupert. I appreciate it. I really do. So anyway. I'll probably deal with the Twitter thing on Thursday in a lot more detail. As a matter of fact, tomorrow's Tuesday, so it's going to be probably be my right angle topic. However, the acid test was Donald Trump, and that's when he's serious. Okay, so I'm getting something I haven't gotten here before. Here it said. Yeah, so anyway, I was plugging the cables in, and why can't I see this? What's the matter with me? It's just like, gone, like that. Pow. Bob Iger's back at Disney. That's something I'd like to talk about a little later, too, if you can kind of hold on to all this other stuff. So I know I'm all over the place here, but I don't want to get the super chats wrong, because one of the reasons it took me so long is I just couldn't stand the thought that somebody would, donate money and then, not have me answer it because I get confused as I get older. So anyway, a lot of stuff to talk about. So, but Donald Trump being reinstated to Twitter is the proof of the pudding. And, or rather the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. and understanding that that Musk, I guess, had a poll, a Twitter poll, and I think Trump won 52 to 48. I'm not entirely sure if I really feel good about that. I don't like the idea that you get to vote in free speech. But, I'll take whatever gains we can get. A gain is a gain. And Donald Trump's back on Twitter. So that's the bottom line. Now, the question is, of course, the big question is how much of this will percolate through the other media giants. And Facebook is done. Their stock is a quarter of what it was, and that's largely due to, Jeff Zuckerberg had one idea, namely Facebook, that had something to do with humanity, as opposed to, reptilian kind of things. And so that took off really well. But his idea for the metaverse is just so, I don't know, it feels like 1998 to me, It's you'll have to wear these big heavy goggles, but you'll be able to shop in a virtual shopping center. So, whatever. But this is an enormous deal, Donald Trump being back on Twitter. Now, whether he has a conflict of interest with his own social media site, I don't know, but I do know that the thing about Twitter that's so important is that oh, come on. Anyway, is that will it spread downstream for other things? So I am actually going to go and try and stay away from those tonight. We'll get to most of the political ones 2 days from now on Stratosphere Lounge. Jan Sixley, cute name, said, "Who would I pick as Attorney General and Director of the FBI?" Josh Hawley, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, I'd pick Josh. Watching him dissect these people is an absolute pleasure. I used to feel the exact same way watching Trey Gowdy do it, but there's something about Josh that's even more fun to watch. He's just, his tone is perfect. It's friendly, it's respectful, and it's merciless. So, yeah, Josh for sure. And if not Josh, then I would think about the highest ranking FBI official that I had 100% confidence in. A whistleblower would be who I would pick, I think. But I think this is really it. So anyway, I'm a little dazzled by the super chat thing, so I'm going to keep my eye on those. But let me get back to the general form of the nonsense that I was trying to get together today. So I started out by talking about how this Soviet thing is just grinding me down, and I can't move on. That we discussed before how the timing was just terrible. The second I finished the animation, I had to ditch it for the income. And so that was miserable. And so the growth channel on Stratosphere Studios has been pretty flatlined, and it will be until I get this thing out the door. So I need to get it out the door. But with that said, that's got to happen. Now, by the way, the super chats are up here at the top, and so I guess it's just a reminder, right? That's just a reminder. I'm hoping that's what that is. Okay, anyway. So I'm having a hell of a time with this thing, and I was talking with Natasha about it, and I finally came to the conclusion that the reason it's given me so much hard time is because really I'd been working on it for months, and it was only last night talking with her that I really began to understand why I'm having such a hard time with it, and that's because it's secret. And because it's secret, I'm having a hell of a time sourcing this stuff. When I did Apollo 11, what we saw, I knew that I knew a bit about Apollo's program, and I knew Apollo 9 was followed by Apollo 10, and Apollo 10 was followed by Apollo 11, and there's no question about that. I know in the Cold War series that the Berlin airlift occurred, and these were the dates, and the Bay of Pigs, and these were the dates, and the Cuban Missile Crisis, and these were the dates. On America's Forgotten Heroes, I was dealing with the stories of individual people's lives, and all that stuff is there. But this one, there are so many conflicting sources of information. And the information is so important that I am just determined to not get it wrong. And it's impossible to get it right. I think that's, in a nutshell, basically the conundrum I find myself in. It's impossible to get it right, and at the same time, I just have to get it right. Dwayne Cates for $5, and let's see. Marusha Dark says the metaverse will ultimately fail in part because it has Play mobile graphics for $1 billion. We at least deserve Dark Souls level resolution. Okay. In other words, it seems to me like the metaverse looked like I said, looked like a tech demo from late 90s, early 2000s. And our friend Dwayne Cates says the narrative control is being destroyed. The best story wins, and right now they're losing their mute button. Yes, all of this is true. Now. Back to where I was, if I can possibly remember it. Yes. So, Ed Smith over here in Twitch says, for the Gulag story, are the sources more often in paper or at best on microfilm? There are many different sources, and many of them are contradictory. And here's my dilemma. I don't want to overstate the numbers because I don't want leftists come in and saying, well, he said it was 50 million when it was only 6 million, as if there's really a difference there. So I can't get them wrong, but at the same time, I don't want to go to the low end either, because if I say, well, maybe 30,000 people were killed here and it was 200,000 people, I feel like I've done a disservice to 140,000 people who'd been murdered. And so despite what some people think or what other people's positions are, I take accuracy very, 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 very seriously. If I get a spelling mistake on a title card wrong, I get nuts. But when I'm doing something like this, it's really important to get it right. And not only are the numbers difficult to reach, but they're all contradictory. So that's a lot of it. And the second aspect of it is, I don't know who said this. I want to say it was Mark Twain, but then again, I want to say Mark Twain said everything. But somebody was describing the writing process, and they said that writing a story is like, I know what hole the rabbit went in, but I don't know what hole it's going to come out of. And that's exactly it. So I had this format where I was going to take each one of these terror chiefs, so, Dzerzhinsky for one episode, Mezhinsky for the second, then Yagoda, Yezhov, Beria, Putin. But now I feel like the rabbit's not coming out that hole, that I need to actually change the format, and that's what's holding me up. There are some periods of time when a lot of things happen, and there are other periods of time when not so many things happen. And in the first episode, I just kind of had 4 or 5 minutes on the Russian Revolution, and then I last minute made the mistake of reading yet another book, biography of Lenin, and half of that book is highlighting. And the more I look at this. You look at the Soviet Union from the outside if you haven't had any experience with this history. I see you there, Eric. I'll get to your question in just 1 second. Thank you. And you say, okay, so Stalin, because, Lenin was head of the country for 24. He was useless for the last 2 years, 5 years at the outside probably. And Stalin, for half a century. And so you always think of it, it's a Stalin. And the left will tell you that's exactly what happened, that Lenin created this workers' paradise and that Stalin came and screwed it up. But every single line I read, more and more and more, it's Lenin. It's all Lenin. All of this, he is one of the worst people that ever lived. Lenin is a reptile. There's a reptilianness about Lenin that surpasses even Hitler. Hitler is not human in any way. There's no there's no humanity in Hitler. And by humanity, I mean there's no personal relationships. He has no friends. He has no he has no interest in women except for his niece, and so he's just this inhuman thing. Stalin was one of the greatest mass murderers, but probably second after Mao. And Stalin at least there was humanity in him. When I say humanity, I mean there was emotions in him, not humanity in the way we usually mean the word. At least he was capable of human emotion. Most of those emotions were paranoia and revenge and murder and cruelty, but at least they're there. Lenin is about power, and that's all. He will sell his country out for power. He will sell other party people out for power. He'll sell his principles out for power. He'll do whatever he had to do in order to stay in power. That's all he cared about. And the sheer cold-bloodedness of it really, really continues to shock me. And one thing that I do find as a real insight for myself, just for me personally, is this idea that well, it's the truth, and that is that the Soviet Union, the Soviet state, is Lenin's personality incarnate. It's paranoid, it's insecure, it's brutal, it's theoretical, it's anti-human, it's all of those things. And Lenin wrote the manual, and Stalin just followed the instructions. And you don't want to do anything to mitigate Stalin, needless to say. But anyway, the more I read about it, the more amazed I am at how much of it is just Lenin incarnate. Eric Gotts on our YouTube super chat says, and thank you, very nice $50 super chat. Thank you, Eric. Super chat says, I knew that you would do the right thing eventually. You may have my Australian dollary dues. Thank you and Godspeed. I spent 3-4 months in Australia back in 1998 in Queensland, Brisbane. Mm-hmm. And I just had the best time there. I just loved that country. I loved it. And lovely, great, fun people. I went down there expecting that I'd like the women quite a lot and think the guys would be kind of, I don't know, maybe aggressive or something. Completely backwards. The women were kind of cold, but the men were just, everybody's your best mate, and just loved the place. Couldn't have a better time down there. My uncle's lived in Australia for 40 years now, so yeah, Australia is the happy land. Is the happy land. I happened to be there during Anzac Day as well, and was in a restaurant, and then everything just stopped. I don't remember if it was for 1 minute or 3 minutes, but it was very moving and very impressive, and I just absolutely adored that place and adored the people. Weirdest thing for me, having spent a lifetime in observatories and out star parties and then tens of thousands of hours in a planetarium, was looking up and seeing all these constellations that weren't there. And Eric Cutts again, and you may visit again at any time. Well, I will take you up on that, Eric, and thank you very much for the dollary dues. I really appreciate that. Bart's Treasures here back on Twitch says, Bill, on contradictory numbers, just be honest with the audience. Say something like some sources estimate the number at 30,000, others size 200,000. And that's pretty much exactly what I've been doing. But it's not even the lack of accuracy that bothers me, guys. It's the fact that I can't get to accuracy. And that is very annoying for me because I take accuracy very, very seriously. And there are times when I'm trying to hunt down a specific piece of information that I've heard a couple times before and I can't find it. And I say to myself, how much am I imagining this? Is this all, propaganda? It's not, but in any event, I think getting the format changed is something. So if I get the format changed that I'd like, I would do the first one would be innocent people, and I talk about all the bodies where the bodies are today. I like the idea of starting today, like now, like modern Moscow. And then the second episode, I think I'm going to just call the Bacillus, because Russia was at war with Germany in World War I. Russia was an ally of France and Britain, and the Germans put a ton of money into Lenin, and they put him on the famous sealed train, and he got on board a train in Switzerland, went through Germany to, I want to think it was to Finland, and then from Finland into Russia, and the I don't know who said it. It might have been Churchill. Said it was like a bacillus, like they planted this bacillus, like a bacteria, in Russia, with the hopes of it bringing Russia out of the war. It's exactly what they did. And you know, and some of it is just heartbreaking. I mean, Kerensky. So there were two Russian revolutions. I've said some of this before, and I'll get on to other stuff, but there were two Russian revolutions in 1917. There was the February Revolution, where the war is going so badly and there's chaos in the streets. Tsar abdicates. Provisional government is set up, a constituent assembly. The death penalty is abolished. Freedom of the press. One of the writers said, D.L. Fendel said, not Finland, the Finland station in Leningrad, St. Petersburg. Yes, but he came to the Finland station out of Finland. He didn't. I don't think he went from Germany into Russia. There was something else there. But in any event, I've got its source. I'll get it figured out. Rob Ross, just $50 and nothing else. Rob, you're a fine fellow, and thank you very much for that. I appreciate that very much. Okay, so back to the story. So there's a period of 8 months there where they are so close, where they're so close. The Russian people are so close, and they were so busy fighting themselves, and they were so weak in the Civil War. You know, the whites should have easily won that war. 3 separate armies, none of them talking to each other. It's just I look at the Russia, and I just think of, it's like so many what ifs and so many, oh my God, you know, so many opportunities to arrest Lenin, so many opportunities just so many opportunities to avert the catastrophe that the Soviet Union was. And it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to watch, especially when you know what comes next. So anyway, so there's been that. And the reason I opened with that was because that series has been sitting on my head for 3-4 months now. And first thing I think when I wake up is I got to get these scripts done. And last thing I think before I go to bed is I got to get these scripts done. And so I've been reading history. Now we get to the point of strategy for studios instead of the politics. So I'm thinking, my God, I've read 9, 10, 11, 12 history books in a row. Maybe let me just see. And then I realized I haven't checked the 40K, the Warhammer 40K thing for a while. I knew there was a new novel coming out, and sure enough, it was out. And so I got it and said, oh, you know, read it over a week. I didn't read it over a week. I read it in 24 hours. I just couldn't stop reading it. So we're switching gears here for those of you at home with a program. So this was the 7th book in the 8-book series of the Siege of Terra. And I think there were 61 books in the Horus Heresy. So I think it was 61 novels that I read sequentially. And then prior to yesterday, 6 books on the ending of this enormous, enormous story. And then there's one more after this. And the one after this is written by Dan Abnett, who's the best writer they've got, and he wrote the first one. It was the first one Dan Abnett's story got me kind of hooked on 40K, because I had 40K bounce off of me for damn near 40 years. So let me just tell a little bit of the backstory about Warhammer 40K and how I got to it, and then I'll just tell you a little bit about this experience I had with this book. So back before there were computer games, kids, there were board games, tabletop games, and Warhammer 40K was composed of little miniatures, and they were lead figures, I'm sure in the beginning. If not lead, they were some molten metal, something like that. Yes, the Emperor does protect Air Techie, he certainly does. So they're about this big, right? And you'd move them around on the board, and there were rules, and it was basically a form of kind of like chess with Dungeons and Dragons mixed in. And because the figures were so small, you can't cast very thin, very fine things that small. It can't. First of all, you can't cast it, and secondly, it breaks off. So everything that you saw was so blobby. It was just so. It like the. It was just like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and then all of the air vehicles were all square and horrible. Pewter, thank you. That's what it was. Air Tech was pewter. And all of this stuff is like, okay. And then I saw what it evolved into when the internet and when YouTube started going, and they still kept the design aspects of it. So you got these creatures with, with shoulder pauldrons out to, here. And tiny little heads, and I thought, this is it just looks stupid to me. Really, just looks dumb, and I just kept bouncing off of it, and then finally I saw a fan film based on it, and I thought, actually, that looks pretty cool, and that got me to, back when I had free time, I might as well just read one of these. I read the first book in the Horus Heresy, and I was completely hooked, and after a very short period of time, I realized what it was that had hooked me so much, and that was that the entire Warhammer 40K universe is designed to show you how awful things can be. It's actually a contest, and you can tell to some degree that the writers are actually almost like having fun at how awful they can make the world, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. Well, that sounds pretty good. And then you find out, no, this is shockingly, unbelievably awful. And once you understand that, it became a philosophical exercise for me. It became the kind of thing where it's like, how far can they go with this? It turns out they can go really, really, really far. And somewhere early in this, I found a YouTube channel called Oculus Imperia, and the guy does his segments. He talks about 40K history, but he does it in character, and those put the hook into me too. So anyway, I watched all of this stuff, and Airteki says, tame compared to what totalitarians are really capable of in real life. Yes and no. I think that's why it appealed to me so much, because I've been dealing with these, I've been living in the world of the Soviet secret police and, for so long. Anyway, so 61 novels. I may be wrong about the numbers, real close to that. In the Horus Heresy, which is where the Emperor of Mankind, the Emperor of Mankind, what an original title, this is me at the very beginning, it's really, the Emperor of Mankind, fantastic. Well, it turns out he's a god, he's like a demigod, and there's no other words for him. So I said, okay, and he, so when I'm really talking about 40K, Warhammer 40K, I'm really talking about Warhammer 30K. I really, everything after that to me was downhill. But when they had the 18 legions and the 18 Primarchs, the whole thing, I just dove into it. So I read 61 novels, and if I had to say, I would say that of the 61 novels in the Horus Heresy, at least a quarter of them, and maybe a third of them, didn't need to be there. There were entire novels where I just finished and said, this did absolutely nothing. It was badly written. I learned nothing. I got nothing. So a full quarter of them are just fluff, as far as I could see. So that's 25% gone. Then there's a middle 50% that were entertaining and good, and you learned, quite a lot out of, and they were worth the read. And then there's 25% of them that are so good that you simply just keep going. You keep chewing it up. So it's this epic story. And when you write 61 novels about something, that's a lot of pages, and you get to do a lot of world building and sketching an awful lot of details. So anyway, the Horus Heresy ends with the Siege of Terra, and I read the last Horus Heresy book, and I thought, that's it? Turns out, no. Now we're going to do a new series called The Siege of Terra, which is 8 books long. And yesterday I read the 7th of the 8th. And in the Siege of Terra series, I think there was only one that I thought really was subpar, and the rest of them were just unbelievable. The one I read last night, I finished this afternoon, I finished it 2-3 hours ago, is unbelievable. And I don't want to talk about it and give away spoilers, but the thing about the thing I read today was, so this is the penultimate episode. This is it. So all of these forces of darkness and evil and rebellion are converging on the Emperor's palace in Terra, which is the size of a continent. It's in the Himalaya Mountains. And so over the course of these last 7 novels, you start, well, they've emerged in the Sol system, and there's battles out in space, and now they're in orbit, and there's battles here, and then there's battles here, and then they take over this, this orbital tower, and then the Empire has a counter attack kind of thing that hurts them. But overall, it's just 7 episodes of impending doom, and it gets closer and closer and closer and closer and closer. And most of them are told on a very large scale, but this one was told from the perspective of the people on the wall. And the sense of doom is so overwhelming. It's so overwhelming that it's overwhelming. It's like we cannot stop them. If we're lucky, we can fight for another 3 or 4 days. Reinforcements are on the way, but they're not going to get here in time. And it's all about, at its core, this latest one called Echoes of Eternity, it's essentially about the idea of fighting even when there's no chance you can win. That's a powerful subject. Powerful, powerful subject. And it's handled brilliantly. And so this 7th novel is all just, you could just feel the walls just coming in, you just feel them getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer. And you're thinking, man, and then, as close as I want to get to spoilers, and then suddenly something changes, and the sense of hope, just comes right out of it. And it's just hard to say, it's beautifully done. And the reason I bring this up now is because this is the difference between a novel and a franchise. This is the difference between a good idea and a franchise. By the way, we have a first-time chat in our Twitch stream from Stats Back to Zero. For your information, the Gorn is behind you. Yeah, I'll tell you when you'll have my attention is when he gets closer. But thank you for noticing that. And Rodzilla over in YouTube says, thank you, Bill. I joined Bill Whittle now, I guess BillWhittle.com over 2 years ago during the big membership drive just to beg for live streams and super chats. Hope you find it worthwhile. Thanks. Thank you, Rodzilla. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the membership. Thank you for constantly pushing me on the super chats. It was so much easier than I thought it would be. I'm embarrassed that it took me as long. I thought this was going to be a very complicated process. It's not. It's a literally click a button. And anyway, so I feel like an idiot. But that's not unusual for me. So anyway, here's the point, right? So back to the colonies, which I haven't had brain space to even look at or work on now for months, since this other thing is so late and I'm trying so hard to get this thing done. Did I get to this one? Yes. So what I realized is that if you've got an idea for a good story, good novel, that's one thing. But the idea for a franchise is something else. Now, Natasha, to my utter amazement, wanted to see Black Adam. which blew my mind. But she's always been really interested in ancient cultures and this, kind of, the whole kind of Mayan thing and all that. So we watched Black Adam. And Dwayne Johnson can act. He really is really quite good in this. And so was Pierce Brosnan. I thought the movie, generally speaking, was a mess, but nevertheless had some interesting ideas in it. And it's not a spoiler for me to reveal this because everybody who's been talking about this film's been out for quite a long time. But the Easter egg at the end of Black Adam is, so he's an anti-hero hero. He's basically Superman who goes around killing people whenever he wants to, out of revenge. And so you sit through the animated end credits before they get to the army of special effects people. And the Easter egg on the end of this thing is he's talking to the head of the Justice League or whatever, and he says, "There's nothing on this planet can stop me." And she says, "Well, we may have to get some friends from off of the planet." And then dust or something, and out of this dust cloud, you actually see the golden S of Superman before you can even see Henry Cavill's face. But the suit is dark blue, and it's metallic and reflective, and then the S is red and yellow. And when that logo comes out of this cloud, after watching this anti-hero, it just knock you out, It's like it's freaking Superman. And it just made me tear up, Henry Cavill needs a shout out in here. He has done, I don't know, 4 or 5 Superman movies now at least. He is perfect for the role. He looks like Superman. He's handsome in a way that even Christopher Reeve wasn't. But there's a goodness about Cavill as an actor that comes across in his portrayal. And I found out, a couple things about him recently. Just didn't go looking. Just happened to be paying attention. He quit The Witcher, which is, was a fairly big streaming service, and he did it because he didn't like the wokeness that was going on there. And when he talks about Superman and Rings of Power and stuff, he's a fan. Cavill's a fan. He reads this stuff, read it before he became famous. And watching him come out of that was just so heartwarming. And I don't, I was going to say I don't think they can kill Superman, and then I almost backed off, and then I realized no, they can't. In the comic books, there's a version of Superman in the comic books where Superman is raped in prison. Funny how that happened, and then either his son Superboy or an earlier version of him is gay, and they're doing their very best to do to Superman what they've done to everything else. But there's something about Superman that is impervious to this. No matter how hard they try, it's impervious. It's as bulletproof as he is. And there have been some less than optimal takes on Superman. But when Superman is on his game, it's breathtaking. Superman is America. He's a post-war character who's all powerful, and the only thing limiting his power is his own morality. And it's his morality that's interesting to me. And this combination of the power that comes to him from Krypton and the morality that comes to him from a small farm in America, right? With Jonathan Kent. That's what makes Superman interesting for me. And I always thought, you have to write in kryptonite, because if you don't have kryptonite, then you can never have a Superman story. Somebody does something and Superman comes and fixes it. So kryptonite is there so that there's drama. But if I were to write a Superman movie, and I'm not when I say I'm not a fan, I'm not a capital F fan in terms of read all the comic books and stuff. I'm just an American who loves the whole idea of Superman. Ending of the original Chris Reeves movies when he drops off Lex Luthor in the prison yard and he smiles and starts lifting up into the sky. And this is in the old version, 78 version, I guess 79. And the warden leads out the window and goes, America's safe again, thanks to you, Superman. And Superman says, don't thank me, Warden, we're all on the same team. And he just goes up into space, and it's sunrise this morning in America, and it's like, oh, man, I just lose it every time. But if I were to write a Superman a Superman movie, you have to have drama. And I would do, like I said, the only thing that constrains Superman's power is his own morality. And that's where I would go. I would have Lex Luthor, I don't have the details of it yet, but I know approximately how I would get there. I would have Lex Luthor devise a plan that was a no-win situation for Superman in terms of morality. In other words, if he acts, millions of innocent people die, and if he doesn't act, millions of innocent people die. And I would use that ultimate strength of the character as his Achilles heel. I would present Superman with a moral dilemma. I wouldn't shoot a kryptonite arrow at him, and I wouldn't, do anything. It's kind of easy. But once you understand what he is, then that's your clue to really get to the guts of the guy. Does he really? Kierneck says Henry has a custodes army. Tells you everything you need to know. Well, somebody needs to make a movie about this stuff. Let me catch up on the super chats here. I got to Rodzilla, I think. I said I joined BillWhittle.com over 2 years ago to the big membership drive just to beg for live streams and super chats. Thank you for that. Darth Bobcat says, I never paid membership, but I really enjoy your shows. You give me food for thought, challenge me, and hold up a mirror to the world. And Darth, it's okay if you don't pay for membership. The reason people do pay for membership is so this stuff goes out for free. And thank you very much, because that's a vindication of the mission, right? Is we're just get people to think about things that matter. And then there's Tom Stratton, who says, will you be able to get a capacitor soldered onto your audio with these super chat funds? Your voice is the only one on the internet that makes my earphones buzz, similar to being overmodulated. Wow. I don't know if anybody else is having that problem. I've taken a lot of the background noise out lately. I hope I don't want anybody to have audio problem. I don't know if we'll see some chat about whether or not that's, when I say unique to you, it may be unique to you in terms of my voice. I've got a pretty high-pitched voice, and it's possible that I'm buzzing speakers, and sorry, Tom, I hope that. I don't appear to be overmodulated. There are times when I was, but right now I look like I'm right on the numbers, so hopefully that'll work. G.K. Masterson says that Cavill almost missed his audition for Superman because he was too busy raiding in World of Warcraft. That's great. Come on. Oh, missed a whole lot of stuff there. Anyway, when you've got, whoa, what happened? Come back to me. That's plain strange. Hang on. Okay. Well, I was sounding good. Now I look like a blur. All right, we'll get to the bottom of this too. Hang on a second. Webcam settings. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know what this is. Having engineers would be nice. Let's do this. Let's take the autofocus on. Hey. That's what I usually do, is turn the autofocus on. Andrew Delike says your camera turned 40. That's exactly what happened. My camera got the exact same thing that my eyes did. I had about as fast too. It looks like I got it back. All right. So anyway, if I leave the autofocus on, then it's constantly doing all this other stuff. So Calville is an example of the fact that not that Hollywood, the Hollywood establishment isn't irredeemably corrupted. You know, you can have fans, and this is all kind of rambling thing. Let me finish up with the 40K thing, and I'll move on to JPEG. So when I think about what I would really like to do for the colonies is I'd like to be able to produce a framework that generated um, that generated enough potential for scores or dozens of writers to jump in, because the Horus Heresy, I don't know how many writers were in there, but I think on the Siege of Terra, I think it was 6 or 7 writers. I know that Dan Abnett did the first of the Horus, did the first of the Siege of Terra. No, he did the 4th one. He's doing the wrap up. Their best writers started it 68 novels ago and finished it. We have a super chat from the Sacred Order of Knightly Valor for 200 yen. Thank you. You've been lifting. You're more square jawed lately. That's nice to know, but I don't think so. Thank you. My friend Ron Smith Rocket is the most original improv guy I know. The most original, strange, absolutely brilliantly strange guy I ever know. He died several years ago of cancer. He's 10 years younger than me. And I wrote an entire part for him in Big Bad Problems. And I liked the part so much because it was so based on him. Now I'm going to keep the part and have to find something else, someone else to cast in it. And thank you very much, Nose, for that $5 super chat there. But aside from the fact that he's insanely brilliant, and I can show him to you, by the way, I mentioned that I had the DVD for Grazing, which was the show that I did back in 95, 96, 97. And that DVD was so badly scratched I could only recover some of it. And some of you guys said, hey, just use some car polish to smooth it out. I haven't had much time to do that. In any event, you'll get to see Ron eventually. With that said, I was sitting at a bar once with the gang waiting for Gator football or something, and Ron came up to me and he sat down next to me and he said, wow, Bill, you've been working out? And I said, no. He said, no, I didn't think so. I don't know why. I just, I found that hilarious. This is the second funniest thing I ever had anybody tell me live. Funniest thing I ever had tell me live was another friend of mine named Steve Stipp, who had put on some weight and was getting a little heavy, and somehow or another I said, Steve, you got to exercise or something. And he looked at me and said, exercise? I'm in no condition to exercise. That one took me right out. Anyway, let me see. Let me just check something here. I think the chances of this is slim, but it's possible that it's here. I know they uploaded a couple of sketches to YouTube. I'm going to give this a very quick look, but let me see if I got it. Because if it's there, it's like yeah, I'm not finding it here. Try one more little thing here. I have seen it on YouTube, I think. Because if it's here, it's buried deep, and I don't have time to go looking for it. I'll see if I can get it next time. Let me just try this last time. Because it'd be worth showing. It was my favorite scene that we did. Negative. All right, I'm not going to waste any more time. I'll find it later and bring it in. Anyway, so 40K. That's exactly what you would like to think that you're going to be able to produce, is something with that kind of range, you know. So anyway, this is the thing about filmmaking that's so hard to get across to people who aren't filmmakers. And that's the collaborative aspect. I mean, film is a collaborative genre, and it can be very, very annoying when you're working with bad people, especially when the bad people have power over you. This is the network execs coming in to watch, the rough cut of Schindler's List and talking about how it could really be improved if Spielberg would just add a talking dog. So that aspect of it is not fun. But when you're working with people who are better than you are, then it's amazing. The first time I saw a rough cut of the Apollo 11 first episode, I couldn't believe my eyes. They found footage I'd never seen before. It was amazing. So that sense of people working together. When we did that TV show Grazing I just mentioned with Ron and another 8 or 9 guys, that was the most fun I ever had. We would have writers' meetings twice a week. These guys were all really, really funny guys. And a comedy writers session is really fun. I sat in on one at Cheers, and I sat in on a table read for Futurama. And it's just really, really good. So anyway, here at Bart's Treasures again, Bill on Colony, similar to Star Trek books, in addition to the animation version, should encourage books by other writers subject to your approval. Books would draw people to the video series, and the video series would pull people to the books. Absolutely correct. Marisha Dark has mentioned this, and so has G.K. Masterson, and many others. There's an entire sci-fi community that is out there, and I'm just stuck on this project that I can't get off my shoulders, and it's just killing me. But there I am, so I know what I got to do. Okay, so Cavill, 40K, that stuff. So Bob Chapek was fired on Sunday. Disney stock is collapsing, and he's replaced with Bob Iger. And Bob Iger was the guy who put all this woke stuff into circulation in the first place. Going back to Bob Iger is almost certainly doubling down on everything that made Disney terrible. I don't stay nearly as much on top of this as Doomcock or Nerdrotic, but it seems like Chapek was trying to turn things around. And nevertheless, I remember seeing Chapek apologizing on camera for not being sensitive enough to the trans community and promising that he would get an education and he's going to do better. And I saw all this stuff and I said, okay, so there you go, right? Okay, so, really, this is the thing about Twitter that I like so much, is that Musk isn't coming in there. He's just and explaining things and asking for forgiveness. He's just going in there and doing it. And we did our right angles on this on Friday. It's nice to get 2 of them in a week, and basically, my understanding is that Elon Musk sent an email to the people, many of them, if not all of them, and basically said, from now on, extraordinary performance and extraordinary effort will be considered the minimum passing grade. If you want to stay with the company, hit yes. If you don't, hit no. And I remember hearing that, and I thought, well, if you could just apply that to the country, we'd be out of trouble, like that. And so watching what he's doing at Twitter is encouraging. Firing that many people who were so badly spoiled, is great. And putting it that way is great. And I remember when I first heard it from either Steve or Scott, I think it was Steve, saying that he'd sent out this email, and that and I think you put a deadline on it, like you must respond within 24 hours of opening this or something. I remember thinking and saying, I wonder if he's able to determine. I'm sure he's able to determine. I wonder if he set it up so that he could determine how much time passed between reading the email and clicking on one of those two buttons, because you could tell a lot from that. If somebody sent me that email, somebody I was working with or for, said, we are now going to up our game, extraordinary effort and extraordinary results will be the minimum passing grade. Do you want to be a part of this, yes or no? I would have clicked the yes by the time I'd finished the sentence. I'd have clicked it within 5-10 seconds. If you have to think about that all day, then that would be somebody I'd be a little more concerned about. Whenever anybody challenges you for some, especially when they challenge you like that towards excellence, then that's all you need to know. The people who are there for the right reasons are not only will they put up with it, but this makes them happy. Scott pointed out correctly that the number one determinant of job satisfaction is job satisfaction. Do you feel like you're making a difference? Do you feel like you're that what you're doing is important? And salary is like fourth. And anytime anybody has an excellence challenge, I want to be there. You know, I want to be there. I love being around people who are really good at what they do. Of all the things I miss from flying, the thing I miss the most is the radio work. I loved being on. I love doing an activity that had selected itself out for people who were serious about things and who wanted to have fun, but at the same time understood that this isn't a joke. I loved it. And every now and then, rarely, you'll see or hear of a pilot who's just a complete whack job, you know. There was a fatal mid-air collision where some guy was on final in a Baron or something, and he should have entered the pattern and flown the pattern. It was an uncontrolled field. But he was, he was a big guy, a lot of money, big old Baron. He flew straight in. He flew right into an aircraft that was turning on final, and they all died. And I've seen that kind of person once or twice, and you can't get rid of them fast enough. But as a hugely general rule, in 99.99% of the time, you're dealing with people who are real serious about safety and real serious about excellence, and so on. Hang on now, I got a couple things here. So everybody just hold that thought. We have to figure out a way to get this done. I think maybe we'll have to do like an all super chat thing. Right now, just if you can just stay with me here. Over in YouTube, we have a $10 super chat from Levelance. And it's, hey, Bill, did you notice in Siege of Terror Book 6, Warhawk, that the contrast between Moritarian and Jagahai Khan mirrors those who want liberty and those who just want to trade freedoms for the easy fix? Yes, there are some very big issues. Big issues. It's not just a large story arc. It's a hugely important story arc. I could make a pretty decent case that the Horus Heresy is the most epic story ever told, and I'm including Lord of the Rings in this. It's going to be tough to beat Lord of the Rings, but real tough. But with that said, it is monumental in scale and so it talks about such important things, and a lot of the important things get lost in a lot of the fan service for just people's heads exploding inside of their helmets from bolter fire and all the rest of it. But with that said, it really is about important stuff, and it's about everything. You got this God Emperor that people are dying for, and is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? It pretty much changes page by page. Horus is, as in the Egyptian god Horus, yes, he's a Primarch. He's the son of... the Emperor created 20 versions of himself. And two of them failed so badly that nobody knows their names. They're just missing, which is kind of cool. The 2nd and the 11th, I think. And so, according to the lore, these remaining 18 super babies, or probably all 20, were stolen and distributed throughout the galaxy, so they all grew up on different worlds, and that means they all have completely different backgrounds. Imagine if young Superman had landed in, well, there's a great comic series called Red Sun, where Superman lands in the Soviet Union. And he got a big hammer and sickle on his chest, and he works for Joseph Stalin. So they're all different, and they're all iconic. Their naming conventions are a little bit too much on the nose. Horus is not one of those examples, but the one who's like a gladiator who has these implants in his head called the Butcher's Nails, which are designed to make him furious all the time. His name is Angron. I thought, yeah, it might be a little on the nose, Moritarian and Ferrus Manus, the guy with iron hands, his name is Ferrus Manus. That kind of thing's a little on the nose. And also, and these are the only criticisms I come up with, you can tell that this thing evolved over 30 or 40 years because these 18 surviving legions are a little light on variety. In other words, there are the Iron Warriors and the Iron Hands. There's the Blood Angels and the other angels, First Legion angels. And so it's like the Iron Angels and the Blood, wolves. Yeah, the wolves. There's a couple of wolves too. There's the Luna wolves, and then there's the space wolves. So with that said, could have gone with panthers or something. But with that said, it's really astonishing. And Dark Angels, thank you. And so you got all of these factions and all of these Primarchs and all of these legions and all of these enemies, and the enemies never end. And is the Emperor good? Is he bad? He's not good, certainly. And he's not evil either. He's got a lot on his plate kind of thing. And so it's extraordinarily complex. Thank you, John West, who tells me in a super chat that I've got a Gorn behind you. That's absolutely right. And by the way, Sacred Order of Knightly Valor is back with 500 yen this time. Please check the Philosophical Corruption of Physics videos with David Harriman. Non-contradictory grounding for hard science and science fiction. Zero spooky quanta. Good. Now, in many ways, 40K is the antithesis of the stuff I want to do with the colonies, because 40K has psychic powers. In fact, it's all about psychic powers. There's a hostile universe of demonic energy, and you have to travel through this warp realm to get from one star to the other, and so there's all kinds of magic. In fact, it is essentially it's Crusaders in space. It's Camelot in space, right? You have knights, and you have Gothic setting, and they have done enough backpedaling and enough sketching in to make you believe that the technology for interstellar travel is still there, because by this point, 40,000 years in the future, 30,000 years in the future, all of this technology is ancient, and nobody knows how to build them anymore. They just know how to maintain them. And there's a couple terms in 40K that are brilliant, but they're no longer called engineers. They're called engine seers. It's spelled just changing one letter, engine seers. And they're priests who understand the machine spirit and how to get the machine spirit to wake up and all this other stuff. So anyway, it's pretty much the antithesis of what I want to do, and what I want to do is ultimately hopeful, and what 40K is the hopelessness, and in a strange way, that's why 40K is so refreshing, because you realize, things could be a lot worse, than they are now. John West says, "Look out, Bill! There's a Gorn behind you." I don't know if I got to that earlier, but I'd rather get him twice than not at all. Yes, he's off the sauce, but he's still pretty. He's got the DTs. I feel like I'm all over the place tonight, but in any event, it's a tremendously rich background. Star Wars is dead. I have no qualms saying that. I know there are still many Star Wars fans out there. I've heard a lot of good things about Andor, but nobody's watching it. Nobody's watching it because they killed it. Star Trek is dead because they killed it. And I know, and Drinker knows, and Nerdrotic knows, and Doomcock knows, and hundred other people know what they could do to fix it. It's just not going to happen. They hired Bob Chapek back, so we're going to get more doubling down on the woke, and so Disney will go the way of Blockbuster. Yep. Dave Big Booty says Doctor Who is dead as well. Didn't they bring back like the favorite Doctor and nobody's watching it anymore? It's just been killed. It's been killed dead. But 40K isn't. 40K is still there. They're trying. Games Workshop, who owns the franchise, put out a statement a year or two ago saying that we want to make 40K more accessible to people, meaning we want to sell more 40K stuff than we're selling. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a lot of the Grimdark out of the Grimdark franchise. And we're going to do cartoon images of them where they're not these, where the Astartes are not these, killing machines. They're kind of guardians, and they're kind of animating it out and stuff. And it's like, okay, all right, try. Marisha says, have I had a chance to watch House of the Dragon yet? No, I haven't. And I haven't had a chance to watch it, and I won't watch it. And the reason I won't is it's not on standing on principle. I've heard it's very, very good. I tried to get into Game of Thrones, and David Tennant, yeah. I tried to get into Game of Thrones, and I got through like the first episode, and I couldn't get over how derivative it was and how badly done it was. Now Game of Thrones has gone on and has been, except for the final season, people raving about the plot, and that's great. But when I tried to get into it, all I could see was just the factions, oh, come on. Okay. I know his name. I just can't remember it. So you got J.R.R. Tolkien with the Lord of the Rings, and we have who's the writer of Game of Thrones. Something, and I know it. I just don't know it. And it's to me, it's so derivative. J.R.R. Martin, thank you. It's so derivative, and I'm looking at these, and I'm looking at the art design and so on coming off of Lord of the Rings, and it just looked, yeah. Anyway, so no, I haven't seen it, and I probably won't. Anyway, there it is. I gotta find some focus today because I'm really just feel like I'm all over the board here. But you're looking at J.R.R. Martin and the fact that it's J.R.R. Martin instead of J.R.R. Tolkien, G.R.R. Martin. Sorry, I don't know. I don't know. I don't care. But you can tell he's just parroting it. And I'm not saying he's a bad writer. I'm just saying he's not an original writer, and I'm not much impressed. I don't know how many of the episodes he wrote. I'm assuming he didn't write all the episodes. I know he wrote the books that existed. And this is the other thing too that I learned about this. It connects to the colonies thing, right? And that is, I don't want to be. Oh, that's one I should know too. Hang on a minute. Okay. The creator of Babylon 5, again, I used to have a memory, and maybe when I get this thing off my plate, it'll come back. But man, that's right on the tip of my tongue. So the creator of Babylon 5, whose name is, we're waiting for the signal to come out and come back again. Go out, come back again. Come out, come back. J. Michael Straczynski. So my understanding is he wrote every episode of Babylon 5 for the 5 or 6 seasons that it was on there. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be, I want to be Gene Roddenberry. All right, I want to set the parameters of this vision, and I want to write some of them, and I'll write the first ones, but I want other people to come in and make it happen. Jeffrey Adams here with a $50 super chat. Thank you, Jeffrey. It's very, very nice of you. Bill, thank you for all you do. Glad I stumbled across you with the Apollo documentaries. Been appreciating your enlightened views from the stratosphere since. Jeffrey from Napa. Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. I really appreciate the super chat too. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you. So Babylon 5 suffers from the fact that there was only one writer. Yes, it's got a through line. Absolutely. It definitely has a through line, but it doesn't, you can tell there's no outside perspective on the thing. And this is the genius of my studio is a Star Trek museum. I mean, it's just, that's what it is. And it's because there were so many great minds that were brought in there in the same time. And the same is true for the Twilight Zone. So, I mean, the Twilight Zone is as much, Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek are about as closely tied together as Rod Serling and the Twilight Zone. But Rod Serling wrote some episodes of Twilight Zone. He wrote quite a few of them, and he wrote some of the good ones, but he didn't write all the good ones. And that's the key, right? Is can you create a vision that's so clear, that other people can walk into those shoes and deliver the same basic product with variations. We're going to add stuff. We're going to change things. We're going to bring in new stuff, but we're not going to break the rules. It's still going to be Star Trek. It's going to be Star Trek written by Harlan Ellison or Dorothy Fontana or whoever else, right? That's the sweet spot. And Star Wars never quite got to that point. I think because George Lucas had too much control over it for the first two trilogies, and then on the final trilogy, it went to the great destroyer, J.J. Abrams, who's managed to ruin Abrams or his acolytes have killed pretty much everything, right? I mean, the guys that ruined Star Trek are J.J. Abrams' prodigies, and the people that ruined Lord of the Rings also worked for J.J. Abrams, and J.J. Abrams made a name with Lost, which I didn't watch, but he also made a name with the fact that he never delivered on all of these so-called mystery boxes. And the entire idea of the mystery boxes, I understand it. I don't have a very, very clear grasp of this, but my understanding of the J.J. Abrams mystery box is that we're going to present something as a mystery, and we're going to hook people by dangling all of these clues, but we're not going to pay it off because there's nothing in the box. That is fraud. That's just fraud. You can't do that, you know? You just can't. I don't know what, I like I said, I never was Game of Thrones fan, but what I heard about the final season of Game of Thrones was just one universal groan. And I don't know how you get away with that more than once. This is an interesting question from Marisha Dark in the Twitch stream. Why do you think Peter Jackson failed with The Hobbit after doing so well with Lord of the Rings? First reason he failed with The Hobbit, and I think probably the second most important reason, was that computer graphics got a lot better since Lord of the Rings. And this seduced him to the dark side. The reason that Lord of the Rings looks so real is because it was shot in the very end of the 90s and the very early 2000s, and the CG wasn't good enough. And so he couldn't use CG. And so it looks so much better. So much better. I remember seeing like Minas Tirith or Khazad-dûm or you know, any of these locations, and I thought, man, I got to tell you, that is incredible computer graphics. But it wasn't. they were usually used miniatures. He invented something called bigatures. They're miniatures, but they're huge miniatures. It was all actual physical stuff. You had this gigantic model of Minas Tirith. It was probably 15, 20 feet tall. They had the same thing for Helm's Deep. You take it outside so that the sun is lighting it the way it should be lit, and then you add the CG people and the horses and all the rest of it. It was brilliant. By the time he got to be able to do The Hobbit, like I said, this is the second reason why I don't think it succeeded. By the time he got to do The Hobbit, computer graphics had gotten good enough so that he could do like a CG orcs, and nobody believed it. You know, it's 20 years practically after The Lord of the Rings, and at the same time it looks so much worse. And once you make the commitment to get into the CG world, now you can do things that you could never have done in real life, and now you go down that nasty road, right? And they're in the Goblin Kingdom, and they cut the ropes or whatever, and all of the dwarves are on this sled, and they just fall some incredible distance. And you couldn't do that real because you'd kill the extras. And so when you do it with CG, you wonder, why didn't this kill the people? It's like once you get into that CG thing, it's very much like a drug addiction. What can we do? Well, it just didn't look good at all. And all of the stuff in The Hobbit that looked fakish to me, that didn't sell me, was because it was CG. You got Gandalf, and you've got Galadriel, and you've got Elrond, and they're having a conversation, but they're having a conversation in front of a green screen. And that CG background didn't look so good. When they did it in Lord of the Rings, that was a practical set. And they CG'd in some of the far background, but it was a practical set. And not only does the practical set look better on film, you cannot do that to actors. Right? Dante 2K's got a great point. He says the best early CG was in Starship Troopers, still holds up today. It does. It really does. And the reason it holds up today is because the bugs are very simple. They're hard surface, right? They don't deform. That's why it holds up so well. Hard surface geometry is the easiest thing to do in computer graphics, and you have nothing to compare them to. This is why the uncanny valley exists in the first place. When you look at a CG human, you go, there's something not right here. That's because you know what a human looks like. When you have a CG bug, you don't have anything to compare it to. CG dogs don't look right. But yeah, Starship Troopers visually was great. And as the original Osok says, the Starship Troopers book was 500% better than the crappy movie. Yes, because the reason it was better was because Heinlein took that seriously. He took the whole thing seriously. By the time What's-His-Name got a hold of it, he thought it was a joke. Should never let European directors handle these kind of important issues because they just don't know how to do it unironically. If you gave it to I don't know. If you gave it to an American, could have turned something into it. Rodzilla's back with $5 super chat. Do you think you could twist Scott and Steve's arms to do some lives and super chats? I could try. It's tough. Scott's got a full-time job. He's working Black Friday. We're doing Friday shows at 6:30 in the morning here for me, which is early for me, but I can do that once a week. This week he's got Black Friday. I think we'd have to start shooting at 5, and I can do that once, but I can't be up at 3:30, because I'm just the night before Stratosphere Lounge. The night before that, I never get home before 10 or 11. And Eric Gotts has said here, service guarantees citizenship. That's what Starship Troopers was about. It was about the idea that the only people who should get to decide how society goes are the people that are ready to put their life on the line for it. That's all of it. Yeah. Infidel 42 says Paul Verhoeven seemed to think that anyone with a positive opinion of the military was definitionally a fascist. Yes, right. You can't be in support of your country. I haven't talked about this in a while, but I remember during in the early days of the Iraq War, there was a film made. I think it was The Kingdom. I'm not 100% sure that it was the kingdom, but I think it was. Anyway, it was the story about terrorists killing a bunch of Americans, and then an American team of soldiers goes out after these Muslim terrorists. And the director had spent the entire movie humanizing the terrorists, right? Because they're, we're all emotionally, morally, more or less the same. It's just a different flavor, right? No real difference between us and these Islamic terrorists. And so he spent this entire movie humanizing the terrorists. And at the end of the movie, at the premiere, mind you, at the premiere, the Americans come in and start killing all these people. And everybody in the premiere audience starts cheering and applauding. And I don't know if he actually got up, but certainly after the fact, he said, he basically said, no, you're not supposed to cheer for this. You're not supposed to cheer for this. I've just spent the whole 90 minutes showing you that these people are just as exactly, as, and it's like, no, I don't go to movies for that. I'm not above looking at the dark side of our culture, and I'm not above looking at areas where the things I believe in fall short of perfection. But I'm on the side I'm on because I'm on the side I'm on. I'm on the side that I think is right, and that aspect of it, is that was one of the first instances of woke. Basically, what it means is that you have to learn your lesson. Did I miss a super chat? Somebody said I missed one of Eric Gott's super chat. Anyway, Sacred Order of the Knightly Valor is back again with another 500 yen super chat. George Lucas blew his wad with Star Wars and outsourced Empire, which was great, from Return of the Jedi on, with the Ewoks merchandising, etc. It all sucked. Yes. So what? So look here. So here's the thing, right? We're back to the thing I really kind of wanted to spend most of the time talking about. It's this idea of a franchise and how you handle a franchise. You have to find people who are on board with the message, and then you got to let them go. You got to find people who are on board with the message. You got to say, here are the rules. You cannot go outside these boundaries, but anything inside these boundaries is great. And they'll bring all these different perspectives into it, and all of these reversals and all of these things that you never could have come up with on your own. And it all goes in the same direction, and that's what makes Star Trek, the original series, Star Trek, right? But what you hear about Lucas is that his original vision for Star Wars, I mean, I don't remember the details exactly, but wasn't Luke Skywalker supposed to be like a frog or something, and C-3PO was like a used car salesman? His characters were insane. He gets on the set. He makes this movie. I don't know if you've seen. There is on YouTube a cut of some of the. It's not even deleted footage. It's simply excised footage. From Jeffrey Adams. Yeah, I thought I got this. Thank you for all you do. If I didn't, I'll say it again. Like I said, I'd rather say it twice than not at all. Jeffrey Adams, again, with a $50 super chat. Thank you for all you do. Glad I stumbled across you with the Apollo documentaries. Been appreciating your enlightened views from the stratosphere since then. Jeffrey from Napa. Thank you, Jeffrey. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got that first time. Anyway, so, God, it's so hard to do this and keep the train of thought. So, if you look at this, you'll see footage of Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, and then it's not Biggs. It's is it Biggs? Yeah, it's Biggs. And you look at how this thing is shot and edited, and it looks like it was done by a junior varsity. It looked like the AV department at a junior high school had shot this thing. It's appallingly bad, awful. And I've heard it's part of the pop culture now. The original cut of Star Wars, Lucas's cut, was just unwatchable. And in walks, well, I sure hope this memory thing is temporary, because it's genuinely alarming. What's her name? Anyway, she comes in and recuts Star Wars, and now it makes sense. Then, when you get to the movie that made Star Wars, which was Empire Strikes Back. Lucas has essentially nothing to do with it. He's not written it. He's not directed it. That's why it was so amazing. By the time you get to Return of the Jedi, he's kind of back in the saddle. That was originally in the story that was supposed to be Lucas's wife was the editor. Was it Marcia Lucas? I thought it was some. Anyway, she saved the movie from him. And then by the time you get to the third one, originally that was supposed to take place on the Wookiee planet. Oh, first time chat from Flagrant Errors. Marcia Lucas, yes. So it was supposed to be the Wookiee planet. And the Wookiee planet was going to be, that would have been cool. But by this point now, the merchandise is selling so much that he basically watered down the story in order to make more money on the action figures, which I think hurt the sales of the action figures. It's my understanding that the deal that Lucas made, I think he had to give up rights to the characters, but he got to keep the merchandising. I think that's basically it. He signed the first deal for Star Wars, and he basically gave away the farm to get the thing made. But he did make the point of saying, I want to keep all the ancillary marketing. And they said, whatever, what's that going to come to? $10, $20? No, turns out it was billions, right? So there's that. And then by the time you get to the second trilogy, Red Letter Media and the Plinkett reviews just destroy Lucas, just destroy him. As a guy who would just want to sit there on his green screen, would sip his coffee, didn't want to go out into the desert again, didn't want to, work with things, R2D2's falling over and C-3PO's about to die of heat stroke, didn't want the inconvenience, sat there on his green screen, he's looking at his monitors, and action. And you've got great actors, much better actors in terms of Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor, and they're just walking and talking and walking and talking and talking and walking and talking. This is the one you missed. Even George, okay, so thank you, GK. I don't know where it went, but I missed one from Eric Gotts that said, even George Lucas had Irwin Kershner and 20th Century Fox. You can still have Jeremy Boring in the Daily Wire. And that's basically, my friends, almost certainly how it's going to go. When I went, and it's not just, this is the most all over the place show I've ever done, but in any event, here we are. So I mentioned earlier we saw Black Adam, and it's like any other Marvel movie. It's a DC movie, but any other, so-called tentpole. It's all over the place. I'm watching this movie, and I thought, for the cost of that one shot, I could deliver a season that would be like Star Trek's first season. I could probably deliver the entire thing for the cost of 3 of these effect shots, and certainly I could deliver the entire thing for 3 minutes of that film. Any 3 minutes. What it cost to make 3 minutes of that film, I could do the whole thing. And then you see, at the end of any of these films, you see they usually do the credit roll, then the Easter egg, and then comes the actual credits. And it's just an army. And just watching the credits is a 12-minute deal, right? It's just thousands and thousands and thousands of names. Animators, it's 200-300 people, right? Compositors, and it's another 60 people, and modelers. It's just on and on and on and on and on. And I'm thinking I could do this with a staff of 5 or 6 or something. And I probably could, but when I walked into Daily Wire for the election coverage, every time I go to that place, I usually go once a year. It's just gotten that much bigger, that much better managed. And I look and I see they got a marketing staff of 15 people, and there's just rooms full of people at desks, 100 of them, 200-300 of them. They're working and all doing all this other stuff. And I think, yes, it's what it takes to do something like that. I guess the thought that comes out of that is That's what you need in order to turn out shows on time and significant numbers of them. But I still maintain that if I had 6 months off, and I'm going to have to find it once I get this thing out the door, there'll be something else after that, but this thing is just all over me. I believe that in the 5 little short sequences that I want to do to sell the colonies, I believe I can do those by myself if I have to, and get to 95% of that 2 minutes here, 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there. It's not the same as 50 minutes, 50 minutes, 50 minutes, but nevertheless, that's it. I don't have a personal assistant, Marisha. I do have an operations manager, and if it weren't for her, we just wouldn't be here having this conversation. Shelley is just absolutely terrific. So, yeah, you need an army. You don't need an army that big, but you need an army. Now, since this is going to be the show from everywhere, I happened to catch something. Been corresponding with somebody who's been telling me about this. But I saw something on Corridor Crew. That's a small group of people. They do a great job. And it's a brand new technology, and I think it's called neural environment resonance, something like that. So up until I saw this thing, the state of the art is photogrammetry, right? You want a 3D model of these hard drives that are on my desk here? Yes. So you could make them, and then you could put a texture on them. But photogrammetry means you can take pictures of them from all different angles, and you will end up with a really excellent representation of this. But it's essentially baked. What these new nerf things do, neural something, energy something or other, it just mind-boggling. I mean, I watched Ren, I think, on Corridor Crew, and he says this stuff is brand new. I mean, I just learned it. This is brand new. But basically, he walks around with his iPhone and scans like an alley, and then he flies a drone over the alley so he can get a full 3D look at this thing. And then he walks through and does the camera moves. And then he can take that into the CG world, and it is perfect. It's perfect. Reflections, you can have a chrome sphere in the middle of a street and fly around it, and it's perfect. And he said this is the most exciting technology he's seen ever as a special effects guy, and he's right. And I don't really even know what to do with that other than to say, there's a couple things that, look, there's a few things that I do that nobody else really does. And most of those things are bridge functions, right? In other words, I understand the world of engineering, and I understand the world of graphic design, right? I'm in the pink tribe and I'm in the gray tribe. I'm in both of those things. Here's a super chat from Blank Frankie saying, what will you call the Stargates in your SF science fiction series? I don't know yet, but they certainly won't be called Stargates. I'm thinking of them as railway lines. Hi from Florida. Hey, Border Rooster, same to you. Jordan Anby joined late. Had no idea you did live streams. Very cool. Thank you. Yes, we've been doing it for a while, and they're getting better. Now the Monday night show is still pretty new. 171 viewers on YouTube and 50 on Twitch, but the Stratosphere Lounge, those have been pushing 350, so that's slowly growing. So there you go. So I don't know what I'll call them, but I'm not going to call them Stargates. I want to avoid any. I want this to be unlike anything anyone's ever seen. So one of the things that I kind of want to do is, I did DS for Dungeon in Unreal Engine. I've done all of the planetary stuff, and I've been away from it for almost 2 months now, and I know that. I opened up the new channel, and next thing you know, I've got nothing to post because I'm on this damn thing that won't ever end. But in any event, I know the software, and I know it well enough to deliver a finished product by myself. I don't want to do it by myself at all, but I know how it works. So when I see something like this Nerf stuff from Corridor Crew, I look at this and I think, okay, I understand what this is technically able to do, and all of the guys at Corridor Crew are technical guys, right? They're special effects guys. I've not seen anything they do that was really impressive from a story point of view, but they're not writers. They're special effects guys, and it's a great channel, and they've been very successful, and they deserve it. But when I look at this technology, I ask myself, what can you do with that technology from a story point of view? And strangely enough, the first thought I had looking at the way this new technology digitizes reality, the first thing I thought was, so maybe the way to do this would be to build practical sets, digitize them using these neural energy fields, and then get them in there. You probably would be more realistic to build something practical, digitize it this way, at least the basics, and then you get into the CG. It's a strange world, you know. The breakout technology that I'm betting the farm on is the idea of taking digital characters and deep faking human faces onto digital characters. That is to me the exciting stuff. But this stuff it's indetectable from real life. By the way, I just want to, Brian Woodbridge, hey, Bill, I don't have anything to say other than love what you do and keep it up, from a longtime watcher and supporter. Brian, there's nothing else you have to say. It's the nicest thing you could possibly say. It's the kind of thing that keeps me going. And same for you, Jeremy, and all of you guys. Thank you. It means the world to me. I really need it. There are times when I really need it. These are some of those times. So my strategy, Marisha says, do it the other way. Scan it, 3D print it, then use it as practical effects. If I do this thing practically, we have all kinds of costs that we would... If you try to... You can't... I don't want to do the colonies practically, because if you do, you end up in the world of The Expanse, where you have to start cutting corners on what you want to show in order to make the budget of what you can do with physical actors in the real world. Connect with me for a $10 super chat. Just says, connect with me. All right. Thank you. Very kind. And so my entire strategy is, we are at the point now, and there are all these different technologies, and I have to try to keep track of these. In addition to all of the writing stuff, I've also got this technical stuff. And every time a new technology appears, I have to think about, what does that allow you to do that you couldn't do before? You could do the colonies as a completely practical series where you basically are casting actors and just shoot it like that, like Mandalorian. But even, and I never saw an episode of Mandalorian, but I know enough about how Mandalorian was shot. So not only could you get one of those 3D volumes, they already have one at Daily Wire, a limited one, but they've got one. So when they shot Mandalorian, what they did was, Mandalorian was going to have reflective armor, not just metallic armor, but essentially chrome armor. So you cannot green screen that. You can't light it, because if you green screen him, you could probably make him look convincing in terms of not being part of the background, but however you light him, that light is going to reflect off the armor, and the environment that he's in is not going to reflect off the armor. So basically they put him in a 270-degree thing. Thank you again, Howard, for all you guys. Very, very kind words over there. And so basically what they did with Mandalorian is they basically said, all right, we're going to take these live actors, we're going to put them in this environment. The environment is going to light the actors. We're going to have LED screens, very high resolution. We're going to use Unreal Engine, so when the guy walks outdoors, Now all of a sudden the wall, which used to be dark indoors and is lighting him dark, the second he walks outside, you get to the outside. All of this light is now coming in from the background, and that's how you light the character, and it's awesome and it works great. But you still have to build that interface between the live actors and the background. They did a great job of it, but if you're going to have him in a bar, you got to build the bar. You at least have to build the things that he interacts with. It's a weird sort of a half and half kind of world. I don't want to live in that world. What I want is I want the tools to create this series, this franchise, completely digitally, and at the same time have it be photoreal, undetectably real. Now, that technology does exist now. And the part of it that was the missing link was the humans. And I thought, oh, the metahumans came out, oh, they're awful good looking. And they are awful good looking for CG characters, but they're CG characters. And I did something with CG characters that is the best looking. The first thing I ever did with metahumans by myself is the best thing I've ever seen metahumans done. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's true. It's technically the second thing. The second thing I did when the metahumans came out was a conversation between me and Zoe on the moon, and I have not seen metahumans look better than that since then, ever. But they still look like CG characters. I just thought they were good enough CG characters. And so then I remember having the idea, deepfake. I wonder if could you deepfake into a digital world? Then I saw people taking metahumans and they're doing their test expressions that when you design a metahuman, you can put them in motion so you can see the expressions on them, and you're changing their faces and their hair and all the rest of it. So I saw this metahuman going through his facial exercises, and then they deepfaked on top of that. And I said, that's it. There it is. The deep fake looks real because it is based on photographs of human people. It is perfect, or it's certainly close enough to perfect. And so if you can do that, Marusha, you don't have to deal with the real world. Ideally, you want everything in a digital world, because if you're doing science fiction, here's a great example, or here's a perfect example. You're in a spaceship, and you're trying to be 100% realistic, and you're in orbit. Well, if you're in orbit, your humans float through the ship, and they float through the ship in exactly the same way that they float through the International Space Station. Now, you cannot do that on wires. The only way to do that, convincingly, is to shoot it on the Vomit Comet, which produces actual zero-G, because, for those of you that are curious, the Vomit Comet was the name given to the 707, I think it was, that was made to train astronauts. And you actually get zero-G on planet Earth for about 45 seconds. And the way it works is you're in the plane, everybody's in the plane, people in the back, the pilots, the plane, everything, the fuel. You're in the Earth's atmosphere. You get 1G on everything. So the plane dives, picks up some speed, and then it pulls up, and you get extra Gs on probably a 1 or 2G, probably a 2 or 3G G load. So the plane pulls up into this climb, and then once it gets into the climb, it pushes over. The pilot pushes forward on the stick. You have to do this right. But basically what the airplane has done is it has taken the passengers and launched them on a ballistic trajectory. It's like it's slung them into the sky. And the key to this thing working is thinking about the people in the back are on a ballistic trajectory, and the pilot has to make sure that the plane doesn't bump into them. That's probably the best way to think of it. It picks them up, and at 500 miles an hour, throws them up. And since they are going up and then coming down, they're essentially in free fall the whole time, which means that as long as the plane follows that same path and doesn't bump into them, they're essentially not connected to the plane in terms of gravity. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the way to think of it. And this is the only way to think about like one of the great physics conundrums. Any attempt to solve this mentally is bound to fail, which is why it was accepted knowledge for 1,000 years. So Galileo does this experiment, goes up on top of a tower. He takes a heavy ball and a light ball, both made out of metal, let's say, and he drops them, and they hit the ground at the same time. And I still had to, years and years and years, decades after I first knew this was true, I couldn't understand it. I knew it was true. I just couldn't understand it. Eric Gotts is back in with a $5 super chat. Can anyone do the quick maths on the opportunity lost with super chats? How much spent today multiplied by the 300 or so Stratosphere lounges? Oh, I don't do that math. Please don't. I really, please don't do that. If you want to calculate the math on all the money I would lose if I hadn't started doing it now, that's a different story. All right, so here we go. So it just doesn't make sense that, because air resistance is not really entering into it at this point, right? You're not dealing with greater drag or anything. You would intuitively think that this big heavy ball is going to fall faster than the light one, but it doesn't. And I couldn't understand it until finally somebody explained it to me in a way that I could understand it. And the way they explained it to me was to say, while these balls are falling, they're both weightless. There is no longer a heavy ball or a light ball. They're weightless. That's what falling is. They are weightless. Weight is a very complex event. Your weight, you think your weight is the same as your mass, but it's not. Your weight is what. You cannot have weight unless you have something that is stopping you from falling, right? Weight is the pressure of your mass being accelerated down but being resisted by a plane, in this case the surface of the Earth, or more specifically a bathroom scale that's located on the surface of the Earth. If there's nothing stopping your fall, then you have no weight. You're just accelerating towards wherever the gravity is. So everything is weightless until you put something in the way. And when you put something in the way, then the different masses exert different forces. And that's when a heavier ball gets heavier than a light ball again. But while they're falling, there's nothing. So if you're doing The Expanse or a realistic science fiction show, you don't have the budget to shoot. I suppose it'd be possible to. There is a private version of the Vomit Comet. At least there was. 0G or Experience or something. I think they used a 727 in that case. Show Enough the Legend for $5 says, have you seen Dr. Steve Turley's video on beating the Dems at their own game? Look at Michelle Steele's strategy out of CA District 45. It's excellent. I have not seen it. Thank you for the super chat. I'll try and get on that in time for the Stratosphere Lounge, because that's definitely the kind of thing we want to talk about. Okay, so you've got this, but thank you very much, Show Enough. So if you're going to do the colonies practically, you have to be able to do it in 0G, and that is phenomenally expensive, and it's unnecessary. If you can get it in the computer, you can do anything. You don't have to go out and green screen a rover so that you can then digitally paint in this background. The rover and everything else is all digital. The digital world is enormously, orders of magnitude easier and less expensive to do than the real world. And there are a significant subset of things, especially in science fiction, that the digital world allows you to do that you can't do otherwise. Marusha said, will you be streaming on Thursday since it's Thanksgiving? I don't know. I'm not going anywhere. Might be better to move that one to Friday, because I don't know. Maybe we'll take a vote on it or something. I can. I was planning on it. I just forgot it was Thanksgiving. That's how deep in the woods I've been with this thing. Yeah, and Eric says if I did, I wouldn't have much of an audience. I think we'll move that one to Friday this week. So I think that's what we'll do. Okay, so if you can get it in the digital world, then you can do anything you want with it. And so that would be my goal. Now the problem is if you're going with the full digital, never go full digital. Is it genuinely photorealistic? By the way, that term is the most overused term in CG. I can't tell you how many things I've seen that says photoreal. Not even close. Of all the stuff that's out there that's listed as photoreal, I bet you it's a 0.5% that is actually photoreal, meaning you cannot tell. So you get a lot of don't do it on Thanksgiving. There's a super chat from Starlaw that says, did you get the Star Trek Army Builder set? I did not. I didn't know there was such. Oh, wait a minute. In the background, there's some people sent me some stuff. There's a Kirk action figure and a Kirk command chair and stuff. I don't know if that's what you're talking about there, Starlaw. Anyway, so if you can get them into the digital world, you can do all kinds of things, and you can do all kinds of things. The problem that I've got now is when I pitch this, I have to do two things. I have to show it, right? I have to show it without, well, we're going to do this. No, it's like, play it. There it is. Can you tell that's not me? Yes or no? You got to do that. And secondly, when it comes time to convincing Daily Wire or anybody else to put the money into getting a pilot done or a series done, you've got to know enough about the technology to be able to have some rough idea of what it is you're actually selling. Now, it turns out I expect I'll be working with a producer who worked with me on Apollo 11, who's been working with Daily Wire for a long, long time. He's real good at this kind of thing that I'm not so real good at. The budgeting issues, and in fact, not only not good at that, I'm terrible at it. Coffee Shinato said, make a trailer. It's not. I don't. This wouldn't even be a trailer. This would be. Look, if I go the crowdfunding route, then I have to have 5 shorts. If I go the take it to somebody else route, then I have to have a tech demo. Right? If I'm convincing the general public, I have to have shorts. If I'm convincing somebody who's in production, then I have to show them that my concept for making this work can deliver the goods. So if I were to do a tech demo, I would do something like, we showed it a couple months ago. There's that train station footage. It's all done in Unreal 5. That is indistinguishable from real life. Indistinguishable. I'd get the best version I could of deep faking onto characters. And by the way, one of my favorite YouTube channels now. It's so favorite, I can't even remember the guy's exact name. So let me just get that. I'm close to his exact name. Yeah, I think that's it. Let me take a double sure. Yeah. Okay. So there's a guy who does an impressionist named Charlie Hopkinson, and I've been a fan of his for a while because his voices are terrific. But he started doing something with Rings of Power, and what he did was he did perfect voices of Gandalf and Elrond and especially Boromir, and that would have been impressive. But basically, he deep fakes the actors onto his characters, and he's done reviews of the Rings of Power. And it is, given the fact that it's one guy essentially, Charlie Hopkinson's reviews of Rings of Power as Gandalf, and it's just mind-blowingly good. And he's got no budget at all. If you haven't seen them, they are absolutely, utterly, 100% fantastic. And that's just a guy, right, who's essentially doing it in his spare time. If you have not seen them, I cannot recommend them highly enough. If you just go watch the last one, if you just look for, I'll try to include it in the when I upload this. But Charlie Hopkinson reviewing episode 6 I'm sorry, episode 8 of Rings of Power is phenomenal. Hang on, I'll see if I can get it for you. He does a lot of shorts too. I'm tempted to just grab one. Actually, I know exactly what I want to show. I'll just download one and steal it. Is it? Give me a second here, gang. It's worth it. Hang on. I want to make sure it's the right one. It looks like the right one. Nope, that's not the one I want. I want. It's worth the wait. I'll just grab it and download it to show it to you. Give me a second here. Just take me a second. Show me the shorts. I'm already subscribed. He's very, 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 very good. Okay, come on. My God, I hate the dead air, but nevertheless, there it is. Where is it? Where's the shorts? Where's the shorts? It's so phenomenally good. I just have to find it. Shorts. Hang on. Hang on. Everybody be cool. It's worth it. Give me 1 second. I just have to find this clip now because it's that good. I just have to find it. And we're all going to have to wait while I find it. That's all there is to it. Man, he's talented. Hang on. Hang on. Just drives me nuts. But now I'm kind of pot committed here. If anyone can find me the link, it's the one where it's a short, and it's the one where Gandalf brags about saving 50p with a club card at Tesco. All right, there's more of these here than I want. Not more than I want, more than I thought there were. If anybody could send me the link, I would. All right, I'll just pick the one that's here. I just pick the one that's here. Give me a second. So this is a guy who does a tremendous, unbelievably great voice impression. So it's his voice, and then he's deep faked Ian McClellan onto his face, and here it comes. Oh, Marisha sent it. Where in Twitch? I'm looking for the short. I found what I wanted, so this will work. You'll get the idea. So just give me a second. Let me just get this thing downloaded here. Hang on now. Hang on. Is this the one I'm looking for? I don't know. Hang on a second. No, that's not the one I want. It's all right. Don't worry. Everybody be cool. This will give you a good idea. I love this. And when I see this, it makes me think, what can I do with this? I've wanted to do commentary. Keep coming back to this idea of something called The Last Man on the Moon. And I just want to do this. I just want to do this. So hang on, here it comes. So I got this. Okay, and I'm going to turn up the volume. Yeah, here it comes. All right, you get the idea. I'll put the link in there. He's a genius. But this is one guy doing deep fakes.
Viria, forged of the very finest Valinor potato. Linya, of the very essence of pickled onion. And Naya, which above all else, kids and grown-ups love it so. Viria,
Which above all else,
forged of the very finest Valinor potato.
You can go now. You've done your job.
Linya.
Yep. So that's the when I say this technology is available, it's available and it's sitting there on the ground. You know, it's just sitting there on the ground. What did I do to my stream? Okay, so I clicked on this and now my YouTube chat has gone away. Okay, hang on. I'll get there. By God, I will. In a second. Yeah, do that. Boom. No. Where did you go, you miserable life? Okay. Well, that's what I get. Hang on. I know it. This is embarrassing, and I'm embarrassed, and that's all there is to it. Just change the format, see if it brings back. Try it. No. See, this is what I get. This is what I get for going above and beyond. Is it the mini feed? No. It's the chat box. Where's the chat box gone? God, I'm just dying here, man. I'm just dying. Scene selector source search stream. I don't know where the chat's gone now. Nope. I don't know where it's gone. I clicked on something and now it's gone. So I don't know how to check the super chats, which is telling me it's probably time to go home, to be honest with you, because this is making me plenty crazy. Last chance. Nope. Okay. Well, this has been one of the biggest goat rodeos I've ever been privileged to be a part of. But in any event, there it is, and thank you for watching. I will have some more work to do, obviously, some more studying to do. It's a 2-hour show. That's close enough. I like going further, but I just cannot figure it out, and I don't want to miss any. No, I'm not doing any member questions. I clicked on the link to that thing, and then my now my YouTube chat thing is gone, so I don't want to miss any super chats. So we'll call it a day right here. And I'll try to get to the questions next time. So anyway, thanks for bearing with us tonight. This show's made possible, like they all are, by the members at BillWhittle.com who keep us afloat here, and now by super chats. So there's always that, I guess. Thanks for being with us, and I will definitely try to get a little more organized for the next one. What's this? Yeah, all right. I don't know. This is probably the most awkward ending I've ever done.